Greg, we're about to listen to the radio version of Casablanca. Have you got any thoughts?
Mary, prepare to be swept away by a tsunami of talent in this radio adaptation of the movie Casablanca. We've got Humphrey Bogart reprising his role as the owner of that fabulous Moroccan gin joint, Rick's Cafe Americain. Plus, there's the extraordinary Ingrid Bergman as Rick's breathy and beautiful one-time and still lover Ilsa, and Paul Henreid as Victor Laszlo, the smooth Czech resistance fighter being hunted by those naughty Nazis. So over the next half hour, we've got drama, romance, gunfire, a courageous woman, and a soft-hearted hard man. Pass the popcorn, Mary. I'm hoping this radio play will rekindle a beautiful friendship between our audience and Casablanca.
Let's go.
Lady Esther presents the Screen Guild Players. The Screen Guild play tonight, Casablanca. The starring players.
This is Humphrey Bogart.
This is Ingrid Bergman.
And this is Paul Henreid.
Tonight, Lady Esther presents the Screen Guild Players in Warner Brothers' exciting story of romance and intrigue in wartime Africa, Casablanca, with the original stars of the picture, Paul Henreid as Victor Laszlo, Ingrid Bergman as Ilsa Lund, and Humphrey Bogart as Rick Blaine. Barely escaping the conquering Germans' entrance into Paris, Rick Blaine fled to Casablanca. There, months before the American troops landed, he was operating Rick's American Cafe. Casablanca swarmed with refugees, and Casablanca's more permanent foreign residents did a land office business in exit visas and letters of transit. Rick, however, avoided involvement in that dangerous business until the night our story began. He was in his office above the cafe, where he could watch and hear the crowd below when his head waiter called to him.
Yes, Carl?
The prefect of police, Captain Renaud, would like to speak to you.
I'll send him in.
Yes, sir. Rick will see you, Captain Renaud.
Thank you, Carl. Hello, Rick.
Hello, Louis. Why the formality?
Well, I have some unpleasant news for you, Ricky.
I mean, you're looking for more graft.
Oh, no. At least not right now. My men arrested Ugarte on his way to your roulette wheel, Ricky.
Well, except to Ugarte, what's so unpleasant about that?
Well, in itself, nothing. But we arrested Ugarte for murdering 2 German couriers and stealing their letters of transit. Ugarte did not have those letters of transit when he was arrested, and he's seen no one but you, Ricky, since the murder.
What are you building up to, Louis? Arresting me?
No, not immediately at any rate. I just want to give you a word of advice. Ugarte was going to sell those letters tonight to Victor Laszlo.
Laszlo? Here in Casablanca?
Yeah. Well, you know, Ricky, this is the first time I've ever seen you so impressed.
As head of the underground movement, Laszlo's impressed half the world.
Yes, it's my duty to see that he does not impress the other half. Rick Laszlo was never reach America. He stays in Casablanca.
20,000 francs says he doesn't.
We'll make it 10,000. After all, I'm only a poor, corrupt official.
All right, it's a bet.
Well, no one else would dare supply Laszlo with exit visas, Ricky, and since he can't leave Casablanca without them, make certain that you don't give him those letters of transit.
But
Oh, you needn't deny it, Rick. I'm certain you have the letters.
Even if I had those letters, Louis, you know I stick my neck out for nobody.
Yes, to date. But I suspect, Ricky, under that cynical shell, you're a sentimentalist. Now, if you'll come downstairs with me, I'll introduce you to Major Strasser and Victor Laszlo and his charming companion, the most beautiful woman who has ever come to Casablanca.
Must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. as time goes by.
Sam!
Yes, boss?
I thought I told you never to play that song again.
Well, boss, you see, I didn't really...
Sam's not to blame, Rick. I asked him to play it.
You? Ilsa?
Yes, Rick. Ilsa.
What are you doing in Casablanca?
Just traveling through with Victor Laszlo.
Where is he?
He'll be right back. He's looking for someone.
Well, I found your wandering escort, Mademoiselle Lund. Ricky, I have the honor of introducing...
We're old acquaintances, Captain Renault.
Oh, you know each other? Well, then, Ricky, do you also know...
This is Mr. Victor Laszlo.
Well, here's a great deal about Rick in Casablanca.
And about Victor Laszlo everywhere. I congratulate you.
What for?
Oh, your work?
Thank you. I try.
We all try. You succeed.
I can't get over you and Mademoiselle Lund knowing each other, Ricky. Under the circumstances, it worries me.
Well, it needn't.
Let's see, Rick. The last time we met...
Was it La Belle Aurore?
Oh, nice, you remembered. But, of course, that was the day the Germans marched into Paris.
I remember every detail. The Germans wore gray. You wore blue.
I don't wish to be the one to say it, Ilsa, but it's late. We'll come again, Monsieur Blaine.
Anytime.
Will you say goodnight to Sam for me, Rick?
I will.
There's still nobody in the world who can play as time goes by like Sam.
I'll tell him. That's what she said, Sam. Nobody can play as time goes by like you.
Aren't you going to stop drinking and go to bed, boss?
No. Play as time goes by, Sam.
Oh, I don't think I can remember it, boss.
If she can stand it, I can. Play it. I got a date with a memory in Paris.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time.
Now I really know the meaning of happiness, Richard. It's being here in Paris with you.
And the German army 50 miles away. Who are you really, Ilsa? What were you before you came to Paris?
At the beginning, we said no questions, Richard.
You know, I can't help wondering why I should be so lucky. Why I should find you waiting for me to come along.
Why there is no other man in my life? Well, that's easy. There was. He's dead.
I'm sorry. I know we said no questions. I'll never ask another.
Richard, you must leave Paris before the Germans arrive. You're on that blacklist.
Their roll of honor.
Oh, don't joke, Richard. You must leave.
No. We must leave.
Yes, of course.
Oh, now, the train for Marseille leaves at 5. Say, why don't we get married in Marseille?
No. Oh, that's too far ahead to plan.
Ilsa, what's the matter?
Nothing, darling. Nothing. It's just that I love you so much. Oh, it's a crazy world. Anything can happen. If you shouldn't get away, if something should keep us apart, wherever you are, wherever I'll be, I want you to know. Richard. Kiss me as if it were the last time.
A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply.
Boss, wake up. Boss, you gotta wake up. That lady's here. And this ain't no memory in Paris. She's right here.
You're as drunk as I am, Sam.
No, he's not, Rick. I'm here. I left Victor at the hotel and came back. I have to talk to you.
Funny about your voice, how it hasn't changed. I can still hear it. Richard, dear, I'll go with you any place. We'll get on a train together. We'll never stop.
No, please. I can understand how you feel.
You understand how I feel. How long was it we had?
I didn't count the days.
Well, I did. Every one of them. Mostly I remember the last one. You and I were going to run away from Paris together.
Oh.
But you didn't meet me at the station, did you?
Please, Rick.
That was a wild finish, me standing on the platform. The last train about to pull out. But you didn't show up, and Sam had to push me on the train.
The Rick I loved in Paris would let me explain, but this Rick, looking at me with hatred, I'll be leaving Casablanca soon. We'll never see each other again.
You'll see me before you go.
No, Rick.
Oh, yes, you will. Some night you'll lie to Laszlo and come to me.
No. No, you see, Victor Laszlo is my husband. And was, even when I knew you in Paris.
Well, Laszlo, I wondered when you'd come to see me.
Captain Reno and Major Strasser kept me busy for the past 24 hours.
Well, there's no use fencing around. You've come about those letters of transit, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
You and Strasser and Reno. Seems to be the general impression in Casablanca that I have those letters.
Suppose we assume that you have them.
All right, go ahead.
You must know it's very important I get out of Casablanca.
Why you? More than any of the others stuck here?
It's my privilege to be one of the leaders of a great movement. You know what I've been doing. You know what it means to the work, to the lives of thousands and thousands of people, that I reach America and...
Don't you ever wonder if what you're fighting for is worth all this?
We might as well question why we breathe. If we stop breathing, we die. If we stop fighting today's enemies, the world will die.
What of it? And it'll be out of its misery.
You know, Monsieur Blaine, you sound like a man trying to convince himself of something he doesn't believe in his heart. That wasn't always your attitude. You ran guns to Ethiopia. You fought against the fascists in Spain.
I was well paid on both occasions.
The winning side would have paid you better. Isn't it strange that you always happen to be fighting on the side of the underdog?
Well, let's say that I'm a poor businessman.
Are you businessmen enough to appreciate an offer of 100,000 francs for those letters?
Oh, I appreciate it. But if you offered me 1,000,000 francs, I wouldn't accept it.
Very well, then. You have the letters of transit. You won't give them to me. But I want Ilsa to be safe. Monsieur Blaine, I ask you as a favor to use the letters to take her away from Casablanca.
You love her that much?
Yes, I love her that much.
Oh, sorry, but it's no deal.
But why?
I suggest that you ask your wife.
My wife?
Yes. Who's singing that song?
Probably Strasser and his Gestapo agents. They followed me here.
Now, don't start anything. I don't want any trouble in here that'll force Reno to close my joint.
You have no objections to your band accompanying me while I sing, do you?
No, go ahead. I'm neutral. If one customer can sing, they can all sing.
They all will sing. Are you ready?
Yeah, we're ready, Mr. Laszlo.
Then play it.
Act One of Casablanca, starring Ingrid Bergman, Humphrey Bogart, and Paul Henreid. And now the curtain rises on the second act of Casablanca, starring Humphrey Bogart as Rick Blaine, Ingrid Bergman as Ilsa Lund, and Paul Henreid as Victor Laszlo. Angered by the manner in which the patrons of Rick's Cafe joined Victor Laszlo in singing the Marseillaise, Major Strasser forced Captain Reno to close Rick's place and ordered Victor Laszlo and Ilsa Lund to remain in their hotel.
Victor, I'm frightened. Please don't go to the underground meeting tonight.
To tell you the truth, my dear, I'm frightened too. So shall I hide here in a hotel room, or shall I carry on the best I can?
Whatever I would say, you would carry on.
Since our friend Rick has refused to part with those letters of transit, What else am I to do?
Did Rick give you any reason?
He suggested I ask you.
Ask me?
Yes. Ilsa, when I was in the concentration camp, were you lonely in Paris?
Yes, Victor, I was.
I know how it is to be lonely. I love you very much, my dear.
Yes. Yes, I know. Victor, whatever I do, will you believe that?
You don't even have to say it. I'll believe. I must get to the underground meeting now. Good night, my dear.
Good night. Hello, Rick.
Well, I told you you'd be around to see me, but this is a little ahead of schedule.
Richard, I had to see you.
Oh, so I'm Richard again. We're back in Paris.
Please.
Your unexpected visit isn't connected by any chance with the letters of transit, is it?
Richard, you can ask any price, but you must give me those letters.
I went all through that with your husband. There's no deal.
Richard, we loved each other once. If those days meant anything at all to you...
I wouldn't bring up Paris if I were you. It's poor salesmanship.
Please listen to me. If you knew what really happened...
I wouldn't believe you no matter what you told me. You'll say anything now to get what you want.
Richard, don't you understand? You are our last hope. If you don't help us, Victor Laszlo will die in Casablanca.
What of it? I'm going to die in Casablanca. It's just a spot for it. Now, if you... Well, I see you come prepared for anything. Give me that gun.
No. I tried to reason with you. I tried everything. Now, if you don't give me those letters, I'll shoot.
Go ahead.
Get me those letters.
No, they're right here in my pocket. I don't have to. If you want them, you'll have to kill me to get them. If the underground means so much, you won't stop at anything. And if you don't shoot fast, I'm going to take that gun away from you. Now give it to me.
Oh, Richard. I tried to stay away. I thought I would never see you again, that you were out of my life. If you knew what I went through the day you left Paris, how much I loved you, how much I still love you. We had been married only 3 weeks when Victor got word that they needed him in Prague. He was captured almost immediately and sent to a concentration camp. Then came word he was dead. I was lonely before, but then I had nothing left, not even hope, until I met you.
But why didn't you tell me all this in Paris?
Victor made me promise to keep our marriage a secret. He was afraid that if the Gestapo found out I was his wife, it would be dangerous for me and for those working with us. I kept my promise.
And then you got word he'd escaped?
Yes, a friend called, telling me that he was ill and hiding in a freight car near Paris. I didn't tell you because you wouldn't have left Paris and they would have caught you. Well, you know the rest.
It's still a story without an ending. What about now?
Well, I'll never have the strength to go away from you again.
And Laszlo?
Well, you'll help him now, won't you, Richard?
Yes.
He'll have his work, all the things he's been living
All
for.
except you.
I can't fight it anymore. I don't know what's right any longer. You'll have to think for both of us, Richard. For all of us.
I've already made up our minds, and I think I can arrange everything with Renault. Here's the setup, Louis. I'm selling out my place and leaving Casablanca on tonight's plane, the last plane.
What?
And I'm taking Ilsa Lund with me. Ilsa's Victor Laszlo's wife. Louis, I'll make a deal with you.
What is it?
I want to be sure that Laszlo doesn't escape this time. Now, if you could get him on a real criminal charge, would that be a feather in your cap?
It most certainly would. Germany, Vichy would be grateful.
And be at my place a half hour before the plane leaves. I'll arrange for Laszlo to be there, thinking I'll sell him the letters of transit. When I hand them to him, that'll give you the criminal grounds for making the arrest.
Ricky, I'll miss you. Apparently, the only one in Casablanca that has even less scruples than I.
Thanks. Oh, and by the way, Louis, come for Laszlo alone. Yeah, I'm taking no chances on a double cross, even from you.
Double cross? Why, Ricky.
You might get ideas about slapping me in the jug for selling those letters, you know. Well, don't forget, a half hour before plane time. Alone.
Don't worry, Ricky. This is an honor I'll share with no one.
Monsieur Blaine, I don't know how to thank you.
There's no time for that. You won't have any trouble in Lisbon, will you?
No, that's all arranged.
Good. Well, here are the letters.
Monsieur Blaine,
Victor Laszlo, you're under arrest on a charge of accessory to the murder of the couriers from whom those letters were stolen.
Now, just a minute. Nobody's going to be arrested, Louis. Not for a while yet.
What? Rick, put that gun down. Have you lost your mind?
Stay where you are, Louis. I wouldn't like to shoot you. But I will if you take one more step toward me. Keep your hands away from your pistol.
Well, I suppose you know what you're doing, but I wonder if you realize what this means, Rick.
Perfectly. In fact, Captain Renault will take you along as our hostage, so there won't be any trouble at the airport. There's only 10 minutes till the plane leaves. We have to hurry.
I'll go get the luggage aboard. Coming, Ilsa?
No, I'll wait here with Rick and the captain.
I'll be right back.
Well, those letters of transit are in blank, Louis. You fill in the names. That'll make it even more official.
Oh, you think of everything, Ricky.
The names to fill in are Mr. and Mrs. Victor Laszlo.
Mr. But why my name, Richard?
Because you're getting on that plane.
But what about you?
I'm staying here to keep Captain Renault company till the plane leaves.
No, Richard. What has happened to you? Last night
Last night we said a great many things. Did you mean everything you said?
You know I did.
You said I'd have to do the thinking for all of us. Well, my thinking adds up to you getting on that plane with Victor.
No, but Richard...
I know what you're going to say, that you belong here with me.
Yes.
But if you stayed here, we'd both land in the concentration camp. Isn't that right, Louis?
I'm afraid that Major Strasser would insist.
You're only saying this to make me go.
I'm no good at being noble, Ilsa. I'm saying it because it's right.
But what about us?
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have it. We lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night.
When I said that I would never leave you.
Everything is in order. Are you ready, Ilsa?
Laszlo, there's something I'd like you to know before you leave.
I know, Monsieur Rick. Ilsa has told me all I need to know about you and herself. I don't ask you to explain anything.
And I'm going to anyway. Might make a difference to you later. Last night, Ilsa tried everything to get those letters. When nothing else worked, she did her best to pretend that she was still in love with me. That was all over long ago. For your sake, she tried to pretend it wasn't. And I tried to let her pretend. We couldn't even fool ourselves.
Rich.
Monsieur Blaine, welcome back in the fight. This time our side will win. Shall we board a plane, Ilsa?
Yes, Victor, I'm ready. God bless you, Richard.
Goodbye.
Well, I suppose you know this isn't going to be pleasant for either of us, Ricky. I have to arrest you, of course.
When the plane leaves, Louis.
Sooner, I'm afraid, Ricky. Here comes Major Strasser.
You better keep quiet, Louis. I'd hate to have to shoot you now.
Why did you ask me to come to the airport, Captain?
Well, I was afraid Victor Laszlo might be leaving on this plane, sir.
Sort of a double cross, eh, Louis?
Of all the ridiculous ideas, Captain.
Possibly. Nevertheless, he's on the plane.
Well, why do you stand there? Why don't you stop him?
Ask Monsieur Rick.
Stay where you are, Strasser.
Herr Blaine, I would advise you not to interfere with an officer of the Third Reich.
I'm a true neutral, Strasser. I was willing to shoot Captain Renault, and I'm willing to shoot you.
But you'll shoot too late.
Oh. Nice shooting, Ricky. But I'm afraid my gendarmes heard those shots. Well, till after this affair dies down, Ricky, I think you'd better disappear from Casablanca. I can arrange your transportation to a fighting French garrison in Brazzaville.
All right, Louis. I could use the trip, but don't forget, you still owe me 10,000 francs for our bet on Laszlo's escape.
Oh, well, we'll need that to get to Brazzaville.
We'll need it?
Certainly. I can be as silly a sentimentalist as you.
You know, Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Thanks to Warner Brothers for Casablanca, and our sincere appreciation to Ingrid Bergman, Paul Henreid, and Humphrey Bogart for appearing with the Lady Esther Screen Guild players tonight.
Greg, we've listened to Casablanca. What did you think?
I loved it. With less than a third of the running time of the original movie, the producers of this radio play have managed to create a compelling storyline that touches on many of the film's highlights. And I think they've done a very worthwhile job there. They've set a cracking pace.
So we've got Casablanca here. The film came out in 1942. The radio production came out in 1943. And the World War II was in full swing at this point. And this was used as a fundraising effort for the war. And we know that Humphrey Bogart took part in a few of those fundraising efforts with at least the Maltese Falcon that we know of.
Yes, I think it's a terrific initiative. It was obviously, as you pointed out, it's done for charity. But also, if you were sitting in that audience, it must have been fabulous. It'd be fabulous now, but it must have, at the time, you've got Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. They're on the stage there. And in this audience, in fact, there were 200 members of the Free French Armed Forces who we hear singing the Marseillaise at one stage. So it must have been a fabulous atmosphere.
Absolutely. So we've got this was based on the stage play by Barnett and Joan Alison. Have you heard about this? It was called Everybody Comes to Rick's, which sounds a little bit like Everybody Loves Raymond, but
But yeah, to be fair, it was well in advance of that. Yeah. So
quite a
no,
corny. This is a corny title, though, in a way, isn't it? Casablanca is so much better.
Oh yes, and it's slightly mysterious as well. Casablanca. It's Morocco. Morocco, and I haven't been to Have you been to Casablanca? I've been to Marrakesh, but I haven't been to Casablanca.
I have been to Casablanca. I was in Casablanca this year.
Oh no! Oh, you jetabout. Well,
I was there in April this year.
Talking about upstaging, I was going to go into great detail about my my visit to Marrakesh a couple of years ago. Oh well, okay. Well, we'll move on from that. I think you've won. I give you that earlier this year. But nevertheless, did you see, because we didn't hear them in the stage play, did you see Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet as those naughty black marketeers, Ugarte and Signor Ferrari, when you were in Casablanca?
I wish, but no. The only thing we saw, actually, we did a bit of a drive-through. We saw the mosque, and the mosque is spectacular. But no, we didn't see Peter Lorre. I think he's no longer with us, Greg, to be honest.
Left the tent, as we say. I'm deeply envious of that particular trip of yours. But as you point out, the war was in full flight, and in fact, as a great marketing initiative for the movie, the Allies swept into North Africa. Just as the film was about to be released. So they rushed it out and they piggybacked on that coverage. And the audiences around the world, they could certainly relate to the storyline.
My dad was in that Allied force. He was he was with the Seaforth Highlanders of Canada, and he was in North Africa.
Oh, a brave man.
Yeah.
That's terrific. No, I didn't know that. So that was in 42. And obviously they were they ran it a bit further down the track. I think then particularly the British and the Australian forces ran into some they had to do some hard yards in other parts of North Africa.
Sandy business.
Yes, indeed. It's not for me. I'm definitely a aircon and flush toilets type of guy, and nobody shooting at me. Preferably nobody. Shooting at me. And speaking of shooting, the great thing about this radio play is for the actors is at least they knew what was happening because one of the problems, as you know, for the film production the previous year was that Humphrey Bogart was in a perpetually foul mood because there were so many script changes that often the actors didn't know what they're going to be saying until the day of the actual shooting. So he was pissed in both the American and the Australian. Pissed as in drunk, and pissed as in, we would say, which is very annoyed and cranky.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Even Ingrid Bergman said something along the lines of that he was very aloof during the shooting, during the recording or the shooting of the film.
Yeah.
I no, I didn't hear her say anything about the radio play, but she
No.
said, I kissed him, but I never knew him.
Yes, what a line. And
Yeah.
there's one of the big pluses that I'm not actually certain who wrote the radio script or who adapted it. But the good thing is that they use quite a few of those lines that we got from the original script from Julius and Philip Epstein, as well as Howard Koch. Those terrific lines, so that we hit the audience for both the radio and the movie versions hear things such as Rick saying to Ilsa, "We'll always have Paris," and Ilsa breathlessly saying to Rick, "Kiss me as if it was the last time." If it
Yes.
were the last time. I
Yeah.
don't know about the English there. I would have changed that to "kiss me as if it was the last time."
Yes.
She says "were," and who am I to judge?
It was. I mean, this is, this grammar that you're bringing up, Greg, might be beyond our listeners, but we'll move on.
Well, no, I don't think so. But there are some lesser known gems in there. For example, when Ilsa says, Richard, we loved each other once, if those days meant anything to you, at all to you. And Rick replies, I wouldn't bring up Paris if I were you. It's poor salesmanship. Now, that's quite a good gag.
That's right. And he also says to her, I'm Richard now, is it? So
Yes, that's right.
so she
Yeah.
goes from calling him Rick to Richard. So he
Yeah.
knows she wants something because she's
Yeah.
calling him Richard.
Yeah, that's right. It's a bit like my mother and my wife. Every time my wife ever calls me Gregory, I know
Ah,
I'm in deep trouble. Right, as my
now
mother used to
Gregory,
say.
now look,
Yes. Oh, yes.
Gregory, let's
Sorry, Mary.
let's talk about Rick and Ilsa. So, what did you think of this relationship?
I've got to say that in the film, because it had more time, it probably made a little more sense that the fact that they had met when her husband, which Rick didn't know at the time that she was married, her husband had been taken off by the Nazis, and she thought he was dead. So it wasn't as if he was in a prison camp being held by the Nazis, and she and Rick are having it off in Paris, with champagne. But that was clarified in the movie. But apparently, because of the script issues, she never knew which man she was going to get, whether she was going to get Laszlo or Rick, and neither did Humphrey Bogart. So he was well and truly, he had it with
Yeah.
that script.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I think she's a bit naughty, Isla. I think is the
yeah,
way I would describe her because um fair enough, she thought her husband was dead, but
yeah,
she leaves Rick without saying anything, explaining anything, just
yeah.
leaves. So
That's
he doesn't
true.
know.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
And then she shows up and has the cheek to actually get Sam to play their song because she's going to ask him for something. She
Wow.
knows
God.
it's going to she knows it's going to pluck at his heartstrings. And boy does he get cranky when he hears that song.
Yes. Well, I didn't even see it like that, but you were absolutely true. I hadn't thought what a manipulative person. Dear, dear, dear.
And then
And
she
those,
tells him she loves him, which
yes,
probably
that's,
isn't right. She's probably not telling the truth when she says she loves him in
oh,
Casablanca.
and yes, in Casablanca. No, my God, you're a hard person. You're so,
I'm just
so
saying.
judgment. I know, I'm sitting there all good, I'm sitting there sniveling into my tissues and, wiping away my tears.
I understand, but I'm just saying. It's a
Yes,
bit
well,
it,
yeah,
it's a bit it's a
well,
bit mean for poor old Rick.
Now, in regards to doing things, the producers of the film, and basically this is following in the footsteps. So the producer was Hal Wallace, who fought apparently tooth and nail to ensure that it went to it was screened just as it should have been, and the director Michael Curtiz, and those two put up a lot with that high functioning alcoholic Humphrey Bogart. And interestingly enough, I watched a documentary about the making of one of Humphrey Bogart's later movies, The African Queen, where he was and that was what, 7 years later, I think, and he was far better behaved
That's
in that
because he
movie.
was with Lauren Bacall by that stage.
Oh God,
He
that's a very
was
knowledgeable remark. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
he was going through marital difficulties with I think it was either his first or second wife. I can't remember her name, sorry. He
Uh,
was in the throes of marital difficulties, getting a divorce, very upset with all of that, drinking too much. But by the time he did African Queen, he was a much more settled person because he was with somebody he truly loved.
but step out of the way while I tell you who that wife at the time was, and I can't even pronounce her name. It's Mayo Methot, is it? Methot? That was his volatile wife at the time, and she made a life particularly difficult because naively she stormed onto the set of Casablanca one day and accused Bogey of having an affair with Bergman. Now, he wasn't even talking. Poor Ingrid's there wondering what the hell's happening. This guy's, and then suddenly the wife is accusing them of having an affair.
Yeah,
Very harsh, very
uh,
harsh.
that does sound like a bit of paranoia because from all reports he was very aloof and didn't speak to her while the filming was going on. But let's talk about the political context of this,
Mm.
Greg, because it's quite
Yes.
interesting that that singing scene in the radio play, which is also in the film, that's got quite an important kind of place in history. Did you notice that part?
I did indeed, and the Marseillaise at the Allons enfants de la patrie at the time had a lot of impact. You had de Gaulle and his Free French fighters, fighting to get France back by that stage. However, interesting enough, nowadays, I think that the Marseillaise is actually seen as a right-wing national anthem used by right-wingers, ironically, in France. But at the time, it was very moving, very moving.
So we've got during the war, Germany had occupied France and set up a puppet government called the Vichy government. And Morocco was where Casablanca is, was part of the French territories at that stage, one of their colonies. And so it had the German occupation also, although it was somewhat neutral and allowed refugees to transit through it. But when there's songs sung in that radio play. The first one is the German song, which I think is Die Wacht am Rhein. So that's the German sort of nationalistic song, and all the German officers start singing that. And then Laszlo asks the orchestra to strike up La Marseillaise, I should say, and they sing over top of it. They basically drown it out, and that's considered to be like a resistance against, German occupation, right?
That's correct. Yes, and in the movie, they had the extras in the cafe was singing, and all the extras for the apparently for virtually all the film were in fact refugees from Europe or people who had come from Europe. So the director and the producer were very keen that they looked authentic.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of it's like Rick's Cafe was a bit of a hub for I don't know, how would you describe it? It's almost like it's a metaphor for the war itself, because it's a place where all these people come together from different places with different goals, and everyone comes there to drink, but they come there for other reasons too, right?
That's right. And those letters of transit, which is what when we were talking earlier on about the two black marketeers, that's what they were trading in. Uh, very trading in people's lives,
Yeah.
basically.
And this is what Laszlo and Isla want, is so that they can escape. Now, the other thing that was a bit of trivia about is it Heinrich, Paul Heinrich, the guy who played
Hen,
Laszlo?
Hen,
Hendrik.
Henreid, Henry. It's
Henry.
Hendreid. He said, trying to
Henry.
remember. Henreid. Yes, yes.
Henry.
Uh,
So
Henreid.
apparently
Yes,
the gossip around him, I'm not going to try to
yes,
say it
yes,
again, is that
yes.
he wasn't very popular on set and apparently thought he was a much better actor than everyone else, especially Humphrey Bogart, who he thought of as a bit of a drunk and overrated as an actor. But I think that the history shows that people liked his performance a great deal. Would you agree?
What that they liked Bogart's performance, or they
Bogart's
liked Henry.
promotion.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, that's right. Yes, yes. Henry is a little standoffish, even on the screen, and in this, he's a slightly aloof. I would have thought,
Yeah.
and he certainly looks like I'm too good for this. And apparently, as you pointed out, although I didn't know that level of detail. Uh, at the time, he was worried because he saw himself as a gorgeous leading man that he was being bumped into a support role for this particular film.
The
So a
cuckold.
lot of, yeah, exactly, a lot of tension on that particular set.
Yeah, yeah. So this was this stage play, Everybody Comes to Rick's, floated by the desk of script assessors at Warner Brothers. And the assessor said of it, it is sophisticated hokum.
Yes, well, that's quite true. It is to an extent, but it has all the elements. I mean, it's got that exotic nature, exotic setting,
Yeah.
and it's got real tension. And it's got believable characters. There's no Rick is a fabulous character, and Ilsa, I think, is very strong as well. And I'm glad you pointed out all those subtleties in her relations, because I had missed them. As I said, I'm very unworldly, Mary, very unworldly.
Everybody loves to, I mean, I don't know. When I was growing up, this was a must-see film. You had to see this film when I was in my teens. So it was considered a beautiful film, an artful film, cool performances, just a must-see. And people would actually watch Casablanca almost like they would watch Breakfast at Tiffany's, as a, like just a wonderful sort of love story.
Mm.
But I do see it from Rick's side quite a bit here, that it's actually also quite a painful story. And I feel for that character a lot because I think, and he sees through it. He sees through it, and he loves her enough that he lets them go anyway,
Mm.
at
Yeah,
some risk to himself.
indeed, a lot of it's as the policeman Captain Renault points out. The basically the Gestapo are going to insist that Rick be captured and presumably not dealt with very fairly, I would say. But I
Yes,
love that ending. I love the ending with the French policeman and Rick going off almost arm in arm
almost.
in almost arm in arm, heading off to a free French fort somewhere to basically escape those, as I said, those naughty Nazis.
Greg, any parting thoughts on Casablanca?
I'm so glad you asked me, Mary, because if there's one cheering lesson to be learned from Casablanca, it's that great creative outcomes can flow from chaotic productions. So in future, I plan to do the Shiver Show dressed in an ivory-coloured dinner jacket, a black bow tie, drinking whiskey, and wondering what on earth is going to happen next. Now, as you know, some of those elements are already in tonight's show with me, but nevertheless.
And Greg, I'd have to say, you and I are both writers. So if I can produce a screenplay where the Warner Brothers executive calls it sophisticated hokum, but it still gets made into a spectacular film. I think that's going to be a pretty good result, and I will go with that.
Oh yes, I'd be pleased. I wonder if there's a part. What's it, Mary? Is there a part in it for me? I'm certain I've got a bow tie somewhere. I'm ready. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
I'll definitely write you in. Good night, Greg.
Thank you very much indeed. Good night, Mary.